So, on today's episode, we are going to discuss polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is abbreviated to PCOS. Around 1 in 10 women suffer with PCOS within the UK, and around 70% of women remain undiagnosed and struggle to get diagnosed with PCOS. So, it is a high amount of women who are struggling. It's an alarming rate of the syndrome that is going around, and symptoms that occur with PCOS can vary from woman to woman. They can change. So some of the most common symptoms that you would get from PCOS is irregular periods, and some women do not have periods at all. Therefore, you can then struggle with fertility, and many women struggle to have children because of PCOS, which is a really debilitating syndrome with devastating results. Many women struggle with high androgens, and therefore they have really high testosterone, really high DHEA levels, which are your androgens, and they suffer with excess hair growth where you would not want to be growing hair, which is on your face, on your back, etc. Also can struggle with hair loss, again in places you would not want to be losing hair on your head. Many women struggle with acne-prone skin due to PCOS and really oily skin, and many women struggle with their weight through PCOS as well. So this syndrome can massively impact women with their self-confidence. It can massively impact body image, and therefore can really impact with mental health, depression, anxiety, and much more. Many women also struggle with sleep and can end up with, really bad fatigue, etc. So the symptoms can be really widespread and may differ from woman to woman. This can be quite a debilitating syndrome, and therefore I wanted to bring on today one of my clients who I have worked with firsthand with PCOS, for her to share her experience of it, how she got diagnosed, which took such a long time for her, how she managed to live with it, how this made her feel, etc. And then we are going to discuss on how she has improved her symptoms of polycystic ovarian symptoms through her wellness journey, and that is improving her nutrition, improving her movement, improving her stress and her overall lifestyle. So let's get straight to the episode, and I really hope that you enjoy this, and any women who are suffering out there can really relate to this, and hopefully can improve their symptoms through lifestyle changes as well. I would like to just put a disclaimer on as well this episode that I am obviously not a trained doctor. I am a nutritionist, therefore I am not replacing your doctor's advice, etc. You should still go and seek professional advice from your doctors. However, we are just sharing this episode for people to become educated on the syndrome, to see people's real life stories, to learn how nutrition and lifestyle factors can help, and purely just to spread that education and further information. So Jay, thank you for joining us today on the podcast. I thought it'd be really interesting and helpful for people to watch this, and for Jay to give us her first-hand experience on how she suffered with PCOS. There's so many people who do suffer with this silently. A lot of people goes without being diagnosed. They struggle to manage it well, etc. So I thought it'd be really good just to bring somebody on who can give her experience and just give tips and advice on how she helped to manage her PCOS. So thank you for being here, Jay.
Thank you for inviting me.
So do you want to just go over a bit about your story and how we met, etc.?
Yeah, it started a long time ago. For me, with polycystics, in my teens, irregular periods, fatigue, acne, the lot. It just something didn't sit well with me. Kept saying it to the doctor, something else is going on, but as typical women, we just get told, "Here's a pill and crack on." Had that for many, many years, and it weren't until later in my 20s where I thought, if I'm to have kids, I should start winding down on the whole hormonal treatments. And when I did, that's when things erupted. The most horrendous periods you can imagine. They were every 3 months, if that. kept saying it again to the doctors. There was nothing wrong with you. Go away. Keep trying for babies. All of that. Thankfully, I did land pregnant with my first daughter naturally, but it was after that I got diagnosed. Because I ended up going private because the NHS just, you don't fit the criteria. Well, not everyone fits a box. Like, everyone is different. So yeah, I got diagnosed in 2020. And from there, it wasn't severe enough to go on any other hormone replacement or anything like that. So it was just managing it as and when needed. So making sure you have your hot water bottles, making sure that you try and drink plenty of water, exercise, all the standard bits you get told. And then it was probably after baby number two, after that 2-year period where everything starts settling down. I'd not been on any contraception at all. And things just were going worse and worse, like spotting in between periods, really bad fatigue, bloating, headache, brain fog. It was just a horrible time. I couldn't get out of bed. Like, weight was up and down. It wasn't a nice time at all. And went back to the gynecologist, who basically said the coil. And for me, that's not an option. Like, it's yet another therapy that just isn't natural for me. Mm-hmm. So I just thought, there's got to be something else out there, like, that I can do. And I'd been on other bits of medication that I've tried before, like Vitex and Inositol.
Inositol, I think it's such a hard one to say that, isn't it? But I think you know what we mean. Yeah.
And you have to take it regularly. And I'm a mom, I forget all the time to take tablets. So everything was up and down all over. And I noticed, Laura, that you were doing a lot on nutrition, and it was a mention about women and their hormones, and nutrition plays a vital role. What you put into your body is going to inevitably give you the fuel to function. So I came to you, asked for advice, and we went through those. What do you do now? Like, you came to you. What do you do? Be truthful. Do you drink? Do you do this? What do you eat day to day? We kept food diaries for a while. And then you gave me that assessment of, here's what I think is going on, and here's how I think it can help. And it's not, here's a massive diet you need to stick to. It's not about that at all. It's changing your relationship with food and looking at it in a different way. And having that knowledge and that insight into how nutrition and how foods can be your medicine, that it's just entirely changed my life, like, completely. I mean, what, we are 7 months in now to when we first spoke, when I first reached out, and I have energy. I actually do exercise because I have the energy to.
Yeah.
My periods have massively settled down into, they're not every month as the standard terminology would be for us. They're about every 4 to 5 days. But I don't spot in between at all. The crampings, they're all right. They're manageable. They're not debilitating anymore. The brain fog's gone. Don't have headaches. There's just a whole host of benefits now I've suddenly come to. And I notice now, if you have a bad week, because we all have had bad weeks, if I've had a heck of a lot of beige food, grabbed a lot of takeaways, I feel horrendous.
Yeah.
Straight away, my body just is like, what have you put in me now? Belly's gurgling, face breaks out, headaches come, feel like you can't function by 2 p.m. The difference is unreal, and that's all to diet. Like I say, it's not about changing your whole diet, as in you must stick to this 100% of the time. I think you have a ratio, don't you? Is it 80-20?
Yeah, I try and go on a bit of an 80-20 ratio so we can still enjoy and have the nice luxuries in life that we want, but it's trying to keep it in check, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say,
Yeah.
it's interesting that when you kind of go over that a little bit, that them symptoms do start to come back and your body kind of does react a little bit to it, doesn't it? So do you want to explain just a little bit? Because I feel like when you came to me, I think I remember you saying to me, I don't feel like I actually eat that bad.
Yeah.
I eat quite okay. And I know we can't see you on the camera fully, but you're not the atypical. I feel like sometimes with PCOS, it can tend to be linked a little bit with weight as well, which is quite untrue. And sometimes not everybody fits in that box. You aren't overweight. Your BMI is probably perfect in proportion. And I just remember you saying to me, I don't feel like I actually eat that bad. So I don't know if you want to just give us a bit of an idea of what your diet was like prior to before.
Yeah, it was, like you say, I thought I ate fine, like, but I think that's because of what we're told as well in supermarkets, on government nutrition websites, like, from what I grew up with as a kid, like, we are told, "Oh, well, if for breakfast you eat cereal, it's a sugary cereal that you're putting in your body, it's cow's milk." Then I'd have a butty or I'd have a wrap every single dinner time. And then at night time, it was a pizza or it was very heavy pasta, but without any veg. It was always like chicken pasta, and that was it.
Yeah.
Um, and then there was alcohol, obviously, um, which we all know is bad, but it's so enjoyable. Um, so Well, yeah, that my diet was very, yeah, very white in a respect. Like
It's very beige, wasn't it?
very, very beige, like barely any vegetables. I'm not a big lover of fruit naturally. But there was no fruit. Um, and it would I'd have spells as well as of like we'd have pizza 4 or 5 nights a week because it was convenient and the kids wanted it. So
Yeah.
it was just ease to go to bang a pizza in the oven and then just eat that and think, well, it's chicken pizza. There's nothing bad on there.
Mm.
It just there was also nothing good. So so that's kind of where my diet was prior. Yeah, like I think because wraps are kind of like the thing, like I've had a wrap, so that I'm not having a chippy every day.
Yes. Yeah.
It but the wraps are that there was no goodness in there. Like you said, I think it was like ham, cheese, and a bit of lettuce,
Yeah, I
and
think I
that's all I'd
remember
have
that.
every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, well, I'd have that, but I'd be like, I don't have a packet of crisps, so that's okay. But yeah, you're not having the wrap with the goodness that you need, so it's not doing you any good. So I think that's where that was our starting point, I think.
Yeah, it was, and I remember it was very kinda like beige, and you definitely wasn't overeating. It wasn't a case of you was going over with your portions. I think it was very beige, and it was a lot of refined carbohydrates, wasn't it? Um, and for anybody who doesn't know, obviously within your carbohydrates, you've got your refined and then your complex versions. So your refined versions tend to be high in glycemic index, which means it makes your blood sugar levels rise quite high and then they do drop back down quicker, which can lead to insulin resistance, which is linked with PCOS as well. So I know we went through that quite a bit. So insulin resistance is basically where your body starts to become resistance with your insulin levels, and that is because you have got high elevated amounts of blood glucose in your body, which is just running around the body too much, and your body therefore can't produce or doesn't make or can't support the insulin levels that are to bring the blood glucose back down. So a lot of people who have PCOS also have the insulin resistance. It can be it's a massive contributory factor to why people end up with PCOS and a hormonal imbalance. And you kind of get stuck in that cycle, don't you? Then once you're in it, where I know you're saying it was convenient and it was easy to eat that way. But then that was also causing you your symptoms of that insulin resistance, then PCOS symptoms, which was then causing your headaches, your fatigue, which then kind of makes you not want to cook because you're brain fogged, you're fatigued. So you get stuck in that cycle. Whereas when you do start to eat a little bit better and you get that bit of that energy back, um, I'm going to say I'm not a massive fan of cooking. I do it because I have to, but very rarely am I bouncing in the kitchen to make the food. But when you don't have the energy to do it, it is
10
that
times
case.
harder. 10
Yeah,
times. We
yeah,
we the same. Like you get home from you've done a full day's work. You've got kids running about everywhere. They want feeding. You just want to feed them and go to bed and have a minute to yourself. But yeah, so it is. It's like say whack something in the oven, ignore it for 20 minutes, and then come back to it when it's ready. It was all inconvenience. It was just easy, and even shopping as well. Like going around the supermarket, you could just pick that's your meal. You just pick one thing up and that's your meal. And I think that was the other thing that we now do, especially now when we do the shop, is we go around and we spend time looking at ingredients and what else out is there? Can we do it ourselves? Like, is there any reason not to? And there is the element of, well, is it all going to go off because it's fresh and it's just as simple as planning your meals for the next 2 to 3
yeah,
days. Like it now, we've got a very strict, we go on a Thursday, we go on a Sunday. Like that's our cycle. And we know it never used to be I'd go one shop and just get everything and bang it in the freezer. It's all very fresh produce, and if it is frozen, it's the stuff that you can't really get away with.
yeah.
Um especially having two small kids.
Yes, definitely. And it's allowing for that as well, isn't it? And do you feel like it's made a difference in, with your family as a whole? Like is your partner eating better now? Are your children eating, better through you just making them changes? Do you feel like it's filtered across like the whole family?
100%. So even though we always kids, you have the chicken nuggets and chips, don't you? Pizza. You have all those bitty food that they like eating. But what they do right now is they'll explore what we eat more because it's interesting and we're all sat at the table together and we always say, just try it. If you don't like it, leave it, come back to it. It's fine. Last night we had homemade chili con carne. There was loads of goodness in there, peppers, onions, fresh garlic, kidney beans.
Yeah,
Like that's
amazing.
something that kids don't even, they won't even like, know that what's that? But both of them absolutely swam a lot.
Amazing.
Because yeah, it's just all about educating them from a young age as well. Because they do have the support in schools, but only the schools can do so much as well. Like they will have their dinner times, and I try and ask my partner every day, but sometimes I don't know because the brain gets left at school half the time. It's what have you had for your dinner? Don't know. But they put on the basics, which is pizzas, and they will put salad out, and they will try encourage like eat your vegetables, but the kid's not going to do it. The friends are not going to do it. So at
No.
home, I just always make sure they've got a very fresh meal in them. And then in the morning times as well, we do have the standard cereals that we do give them, but we try and branch out a little bit to have. Do you want avocado on toast? I mean, that's a lot for a 2-year-old, but it's it.
Definitely.
Like,
That's
just let
amazing.
them have
Yeah.
it. Like, crack on. Like, they will literally, especially if you're eating it, they go, I want that. That looks colourful. That looks like, can I have a bit? Of course you can. You can have as much as you want, but many carrot sticks as you want. Like,
And it just
um,
takes a while, doesn't it, to get that,
yeah,
and I say this to people who ask me as well with the kids, it's not something that happens overnight. Like they're used to that. And also with yourself, it's not something that happens overnight with yourself. Like when you're not used to eating those types of foods, it takes a while for you to build up to it and get used to it and your taste to change, etc. But I feel like once the taste changes and you're used to it, it's the same with the kids. It filters
yeah,
through with them and having that
yeah.
enjoyment in between, isn't it? So when you were seeing these professionals, I know you said you've been trying to get diagnosed with it. And I did explain at the beginning as well, like when you're getting diagnosed with PCOS, you have to fit the box criteria, don't you? You have to have um, two of those markers, which is irregular periods, which you did have the irregular periods. Um, and then also one of them is the androgenic symptoms as well. So I'm surprised you didn't get diagnosed with that, because usually if you've got two of those, that does put you in the marker of you should have got diagnosed with it, because obviously you was having your skin issues as well, wasn't you? So technically you did fit the two markers
Yeah.
there, but that just shows how things got neglected. Did anybody ever mention anything to you about your insulin and your diet or anything throughout any of the
Nope.
appointments?
Nothing. It was all hormonal. It's probably because you work silly hours. It's probably because you do this. Come back to me if you still have issues. And you end up banging your head against a brick wall, because when you do your own research, especially when smartphones and the internet was coming more and more, you'd Google it and you'd be like, you put the symptoms in and it'd come up, and I would mention it. It was, do you not think it's polycystic ovaries? And it was, you're not overweight, you're not overly hairy, you're not this, you're not. And I'm like, yeah, but I still could have it. Like, it, just because I don't fit that doesn't mean it's not still happening. But never nutrition, never diet, not lifestyle, nothing. They just would always make excuses. And then you start doubting yourself as well, thinking, am I being a bit paranoid? Is it just me? I think as women, we're getting better at talking about it, which is good. But 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't dare say anything to my girlfriends that something was going on.
Yeah.
We just presumed that, everything will settle down because the doctor said it'll settle down. So I'll just keep it to myself. And then, like you say, you just take the pills that they tell you to take. It masks everything. And then before you know it, like I say, I was late 20s and it was just crazy. And I was like, I might have gone through that if they'd not given me the pill or the implant, because that, like I say, masked all of the normal symptoms that you would get, like your irregular periods, and all the pain that goes with it.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy time. And looking back, it's a scan. It's a scan and a blood test. And you think, that one scan, I mean, when I went in for the appointment,
Which you paid privately for.
which I paid privately
yeah.
during lockdown, because it was just, I couldn't cope anymore. She literally was like, yep, I've counted such a many on one ovary, and then I've lost count on the other one.
Really? Wow.
That was, and I did say, I was like, if I had this for a while, she was like, 100%. She was like, you was probably born with it. She was like, it's probably just who you've been for your, like, your adult life. I was like, wonderful. So, and I got angry, because I was like, all them years and all the different doctors I spoke to could have been dealt with a lot earlier. Like, there's a lot less fortunate people than me that struggle conceiving with polycystics.
Yeah, I
And
was
I
going
thought
to say you're
that
very
was
lucky.
scary,
Yeah.
because I was like, what? Because at the time, because it was in between my first and my second, what does that look like for a second? Because now I've got this. Were we just very lucky with number one, or now are we going to struggle with number two? So it raises so many questions. And like I say, it's a scan and a blood test. That's it. Like that is it. I think I was in there a whole 10 minutes, and I was like, I know they were trying to ship me out because it was locked down, but it felt, oh, that could have been done when I was 17, 18.
Yeah. And to be
And I would
told
have known.
yeah. And to be constantly told that you didn't have it.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So I know I've suffered with hormonal issues and I've suffered with fatigue, especially when you have kids as well. To think that you'd been told that there's nothing wrong with you, then to be suffering fatigue and all these symptoms makes you feel like a bit of, it made me feel like a bit, until I found out there was something going on, made me feel like I was a bit of a failure and that I couldn't keep up with the duties and the tasks of a mother. Thinking, I just can't be bothered getting up off the couch. I'm really exhausted. And to be constantly being told that there was nothing wrong with you and there actually was, did you experience those kind of thoughts of maybe, maybe my partner just thinks I'm lazy and I'm making it up? And did you kind of get those thoughts going on?
I thought there was something wrong with me. You blame yourself and you think I must be the the problem. Um, and you're right. You look back and you think there was a problem all along. It wasn't just me being lazy. It wasn't me just
Mm,
struggling because I'd not drank enough water. So that's what's giving me a headache. Like this, they're very typical kind of explanations for things. And it does put a strain on it
mm,
because it's difficult for others that don't go through it to understand either, because you you're in a weird situation, like you say, where you're like, I've been misled my whole life, thinking that there's been something wrong with me, but in the wrong way.
yes.
So you've got that side of it, but then trying to explain it in a way where people do understand, because it's not a physical disability. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's a disability, but you can't see it day to day. But behind closed doors, like you say, it's the trying to get yourself out of bed, the 2 o'clock where you think, I can't even lift my arms, like I can't function, like doing things wrong, forgetting things, and then that blame of you self blame yourself, which, but like I say, for the wrong reasons until you know. And then when you
Yeah.
do know, it makes sense and you have a sense of relief, but then you then have this issue of, how do I tell that to people? How do I explain it? And this is the reasons why.
Mm,
Um, and like I said, there's not just a magic pill that can fix it, because there isn't. Like it's a condition, it's chronic. Um, so what else? It can't be the end of it. Like I can't just keep living like this. People are out there that are, and they must have really struggled in life with
mm,
partners, with family members, with friends, with work, because there's no explanation for it. It's
mhm.
just, there's no knowledge out there to say, look at your diet, look at your nutrition, look at what you're putting in your body in the first place. And everyone is a little bit different. So what works for me might not work for someone else. It's all
Definitely.
about trial and error. Um, and it's just encouraging everyone to maybe speak out a little bit more and not take no for an answer. Like
Mhm.
that's one thing I will pass on to anyone that might be experiencing symptoms. Like ignore what the GP is saying, keep fighting, keep going forward. By all means, do the nutrition. But if you want a diagnosis, keep going, because they have to back down eventually. And if you don't get a diagnosis and everything is fine, wonderful. But if you do get, wonderful too, that you've finally got an explanation and you can stop feeling guilty and you can
Yeah.
start going, right, how do I move forward with it? And how can I make myself better?
Mhm. And that's that. That's whether people choose to do, you chose the natural path. You wanted to go, as natural as possible. And that's why you change around your lifestyle, your nutrition, etc. And, whether somebody chooses to do that along medication, that's their own choice. And, some people might have really good doctors and that's really lucky for them. But a lot of people do struggle like yourself. And it's just having that lifelong of not knowing what was wrong with you. And hats off to you. You've got two young children, similar age gap as mine, and getting through that, it kind of does make you feel a bit angry that your experience could have been different had you have, been in a bit of a better health. But at least now you've managed to, overcome that and you can pass it on to your children and hopefully you can continue feeling as great as you are. There's something as well that you really struggled with, and this is so common in PCOS, is with your sleep as well, wasn't it?
Massively. Never slept. Never slept. I'm a bad sleeper anyway. I'm a light sleeper. So any tiny little thing I wake up, but it's then getting back to sleep. I could, every single night for as long as I can remember, I will be up 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
either woke up because I just woke up or something's triggered me to wake up and I can't get back to sleep. But since changing my diet, um, adding the good stuff in,
Mhm.
um, taking the, obviously reducing some of the bad stuff like you beige food, I sleep so much better, but I get up feeling refreshed as well.
Hmm.
So some nights I could get up and I feel like, oh, I've had an all right. I didn't really wake up. I maybe woke up once or twice. I still feel exhausted. Whereas now I can get up, I can take the dog out before I even jump in the shower. Like I feel like the sleep is quality as opposed to just, oh, I've got to sleep because I'm so tired.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, sleep by far is completely changed. I can definitely go to sleep a lot quicker, but then I can stay asleep a lot longer,
yeah.
which is always good for everyone. We need to shut down for a little bit.
Definitely, definitely. And sleep is something that is so common in PCOS. And again, that's due to the hormonal imbalance and the insulin as well. And then one of the other areas as well is stress. So I don't know if you want to just quickly go over that area. I know that was something that you had to work on as well.
Yeah, so my job is very demanding. Um, and because of that, you don't realize you're stressed when you are, as well as having two small kids. And at the time, we were going through a house renovation. So the stress was piling on from all angles. Um, but like I say, you don't realize you're stressed until someone says, I think you might be stressed because you're in it. You're in the thick of it. You're just trying to put fires out everywhere. You're trying to get on to the next thing. But if kids fed, if they're going dropped off, if they, right, I need to work now, I need to get this done. Um, and it was definitely something where I think I've been more mindful and taken a steer into not just nutrition but wellness as well.
Hmm.
Um, so exercise massively, just to give your body that extra layer of outlet of the stresses that you hold on your shoulder. Um, I also use meditation tools every day, just for 10 minutes, just to ground myself, just to that breath work. And I feel myself sometimes if I'm in the car in a situation, just doing breath work, just because
Hmm.
you don't have to sit in a room with a load. It just you're in the car, you're in your own, just control your breathing for 10 minutes. And it really does just bring you down. It brings your heart rate down. It them levels suddenly come, oh, I'm
Yeah.
okay. And I
Takes you
think
out of the
every
fight and flight, doesn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you were running on, I've just got to get stuff done and I can't stop. But there's always time to stop. Let the dog out a lot more. So like I say, the wellness side of it, for the stress side of it, um, but it's everything's kind of interlinked because the nutrition is helping with my symptoms, which is I'm less stressed at, so I won't wake up and suddenly have this massive breakout, or I'm stuck in bed because I'm curled over in pain, or I've
Yes.
not had a good sleep. So that there's that element, and then there's all the other stuff now I'm doing because I've got energy, because I'm sleeping, because we're eating well, and we're in a good. I know I'm stressed because work's not going to go away. The kids are not going to not need things from time to time. It's just all managing it in the correct way,
Yeah.
and taking that time to just look back and go, we've had a couple of days, let's just have a day, let's have a really nice meal, let's all sit down together, let's turn off the electronics, let's do all rather than doom scrolling. Um, so there's two sides. There was like I said, the nutrition side, but then there was also like the wellness side as well.
Yeah, which is definitely so important. And I am such a true believer that you can't do one without the other. Um, they do definitely all link together. So, in order to try and get the exercise and everything, you've got to kind of get yourself to a bit of a status. Whereas if you're eating better and you start off with that, that's going to initially make you feel better and then start implementing the stress things as well to help you to feel better. And once the sleep kicks in, you just end up on this so much better kind of lifestyle, don't you, from just chipping away at those different areas. But again, stress is something that can raise your cortisol, it can raise your adrenaline levels, you're in that fight and flight. And again, that can disrupt the insulin, which can then lead to that high testosterone. And again, that's then pushing further into those PCOS symptoms elevating. So it's just trying to tackle it. And so many people I speak to are like, I'm not stressed, I'm not stressed. And then I said to them, so what are you like when how are you in a traffic situation, and how are you in such a situation? Like, oh yeah, I flip straight away. Like, yeah, I'm gone from 0 to 100 in a second. And then before you know it, after the conversation comes out, like, actually, I think I might actually be a little bit stressed. And
Yeah.
they don't realize it because we've just got used to stress being part of our everyday life, haven't we? That we just live with it. And it's more just trying to manage it a little bit better and make room for it, and doing those breathing techniques can just take you out of that fight and flight.
Yeah.
Digestion can then happen better because, again, when we're in that situation, our digestion isn't working as well as it should be. So that is just putting more ammunition really into those kind of syndromes like the PCOS. So yeah, that's amazing. So is there any other tips and tricks that you'd like to tell anybody or give to anybody before we close off there?
Oh gosh, don't give up. If you want in diagnosis, like I said, just keep fighting for it. So they will try and find it. The NHS is struggling. Everyone knows that. And I think especially for women, like I said, we are getting better at talking, but it is just about talking, sharing experiences. What works for you though might not work for someone else. So it's
Definitely,
trial and
definitely.
error. One big thing I didn't realize that it was cow's milk for me.
Yeah,
Um, had it all my life, never ever blinked this think that I would have a problem with it, and I've cut that out.
yeah.
And so it's just a massive, massive change. So it's all looking about diet, exploring what's out there, but being cautious about where the information comes from, because there's a lot of stuff online that just
So much
says you
misinformation.
one thing, it actually means and that's where I think I struggled, and that's why I came to you, because I was like, just tell me the truth. Like, you've got the knowledge, you've got the training and the understanding, because at the moment I haven't got a clue whether I'm to eat a cucumber or not, because two people say two different things.
It's yeah.
So what do I
And
do?
yeah, and it's madness because there's the basics, whereas you've got to follow them basics. But then, like you just said, then one size doesn't fit all. When we was exploring your dietary patterns, there was a couple of things that you picked up on which you didn't feel was um, doing well for you. We worked on a bit of gut healing as well, didn't we, with the probiotics, etc. And we had to navigate around that. And you found, that with cow's milk. And what will happen is someday, if we didn't disclose this, somebody could listen to this and go, oh, I'm just going to cut cow's milk out. But
Yeah,
that may not be what's happening for you. So this is where
yeah,
people then get confused and they start cutting everything out. There's things going around saying, oh, just don't eat carbs then. And again, that's detrimental. It's not the carbs, it's the type of carbs. Um, Gluten, etc. People go down that line of it. Some people are gluten intolerant, some people are not. And more likely, rather than it being, when anybody embarks on a diet, they reduce all the rubbish, don't they?
yeah,
And they're like,
yeah,
I got the results that I needed to, but they was following, set, a gluten-free diet and also removed all the rubbish. So then you don't know which one give you the results, do you? So it's
you
hard.
don't.
And this is what people constantly get caught up on online, and what fits. It can't fit every single person. We're all going to find our own ways and have our own reactions to different things. And it's learning to work with that, isn't it? So I think that's so important what you said in terms of one size doesn't fit all, and we can't just believe everything that we hear off social media, can we really?
No, not at all. And it's everything in moderation as well. Like I think portion control. Like, there's so much out there, I think, that just, especially for kids, and I might see it more now because I am a mum and I go out a lot with the kids, and the plate ends up in front of them, and I'm like, I could eat that. Like, that's unreal. You do not need all them chips. You don't need them. All them chicken nuggets. You don't need them. What you do need is a lot more broccoli on your plate. And
Yeah.
it's
It's the
and
ratio, isn't it? Yeah.
and it's crazy. Like some of the stuff that you buy from the supermarket, and it says it feeds so many people, and you think, does it? Like, because that's a lot. Um, So, and yeah, I think we get overwhelmed thinking, well, we have to finish it because that's what they've told me I'd know, because we're all built differently. Like I'm tiny, so
Yeah.
portion to is a completely different size to my husband.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's all about looking at that as well. Yeah, moderation. That's how it's changed for me. Like looking at food differently. Like I've had this morning, so what I'm going to do is this afternoon I'll have this, and then I'll tell you what we will do. We'll have this for tea, and the kids will like it because they can get involved in making it. It might be
Yeah.
fajitas or um, something a bit different, and just exploring different foods as well, and different ways of doing things, I think, as well. So not just banging things in an oven, using different like methods. Do you have to have a hot meal every night? No, it's kind of like, do you know, you can have a salad.
Yeah.
Um, it we kind of culturally we're instincted to have these certain meals at certain times, but doesn't always have to be like that if it's doesn't quite fit you. So yeah, moderation, proportions, and yeah, just explore it, see what works for you. It is hard at first because you don't see the results straight away.
No, you
You've got to give
don't. No.
got to give your gut time to repair,
Mhm. Mhm.
get in a way of, oh, hold on a minute, all this stuff's coming into me. I want to pull all this new nutrients out. But then keep on top of them as well because you'll then it, you can't just keep going back to how you were because that the results you can't just have like a salad one day and then you'll be fine for
No, no.
the
And
12
that's
days after.
yeah, amazing. That's
Got to
so
keep
important.
plowing it.
Yeah, because I think so many people get really frustrated with, I just want to take this and I just want it to work tomorrow. And we can all be a little bit like that. We live in that kind of world now where we want something, we want it now, we want it tomorrow. And it's that patience, isn't it? It's fighting through that fatigue and that what you're in at that moment. It's not going to be easy at the beginning, but once the results and your body starts to get used to it, it pays off. And
It's a
um,
journey. Everyone's
it's a
journey is
journey. Yeah, it's a
everyone's
journey.
it's going to be different for everyone. It might take someone 6 months, or it might take someone a year, but it's definitely worth it, especially if you can create good habits out of it.
Definitely.
Then it's always going to be beneficial.
Definitely, definitely. Oh, thank you so much. They are excellent tips. Then I hope anybody who's watching, if anybody's got any of this going on and you want to ask questions, then of course just drop me a message. But thank you so much for coming on. I'm pretty sure you'll have sent a good messages out to anybody there who's suffering with PCOS or considering that they might have it, just to give them that extra push. Again, it's just talking about it and spreading that knowledge, isn't it? So can't thank you enough for coming on, Jay. Thank
I
you.
can't thank you enough. I do at all. Completely changed my life. So I owe you more than this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.